crazy shit happening in the world today and yesterday. But we're going to try to bring some levity to your day, talk ProQuest results. Hopefully I can find a rant by the end of the episode just to trash somebody hard. Special guest, Nick today, another Minnesotan. We keep adding them on. Let's have some fun. Outcast Haven podcast starts now. Big weekend just happened.
Oh yeah.
So I made a joke, and I'm just gonna I love angering people right off the top of the podcast. Our local ProQuest had almost as many players as Australian national tournament. Our locals.
Yeah.
And we have four of them. We have four of them. So we had. We'll start with ours. We're just gonna start with our ProQuest, and then we'll hit results. We'll hit the results of a lot of them. Try to figure out what the popular deck was. I don't know if anybody has any idea what was the good deck.
Must have been an even spread. I mean, that's what I saw.
Yeah. Top decks. We're going to talk a little bit about the PTI and a little controversy, or to me, controversy, and then whatever else comes out. But we'll start locals. We had 52 players in viral card games. I had my best ProQuest finish ever. I top for'd. I played, I call him Bravo 2, new Bravo. I do not, I don't call him Starvo. Somebody says, "Are you playing Starvo?" I say no, because I don't know who that is. Sounds like some band member or some 80s techno, like UK band. Okay, that's not who I play. So I call him Bravo 2, new Bravo, or, star of the show, because that's his name. He's a star of the show. Nick also topped 8 with Bravo as well. So both of us on very, very similar, probably within 2-card build, 2 or 3 cards off, if not identical. I don't know. I didn't check to see. We were pretty close on our lists.
Yeah, no. I don't think it was. Yeah, few on the cards, nothing crazy.
I will say this. This was so I've lost a Prisms with the original OG Bravo, and I've always wanted to avoid them. So this term, I'm like, I do not want to avoid Prism at all. Bring all the Prisms at me that you can. And of course, this tournament, how many Prisms do I play?
0?
Yeah.
That would be a 0 Prisms. But Dash, who was always very, very difficult for OG Bravo, not really a difficult thing for new Bravo. I mean, the one opponent I felt bad for, I revealed every turn of the game.
Yeah.
Just 6 straight reveals and the game was over.
Yeah.
I mean, not many decks can handle that.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's the biggest thing that people have, I think we've seen or the biggest gripe is how aggressive he is. But I think the thing that's interesting is we've already we're in a world where, like Jason and I were talking about this before he got on, it's kind of weird because, people want to compare it to like Chain or Briar, but most of the dominance with those two decks was on like one build. Like people were playing Earthbriar, but most of the dominance was on one. But I feel like there's like 3 very different builds for Bravo currently, with like the full elemental build, the like Kale's, like the more like Kale style, which is more of has some more of the
Bravo
OG
mixed.
like mixed in with the elemental, and then you've got the really wild variant that John and Andrew played with, like the Channel Mount Heroic, just punch your face in with a Channel Mount Heroic and then go use your Awakening to go get a Pulverize and play it for 17 for free, because that totally makes mechanical sense in this game that you could swing at somebody for 17. And it's interesting to see the difference. I know at ours, the 4 Bravos in the top 8.
Yep, 4 Bravos in the top 8 of
and
ours.
One was the Channel Mount Heroic. The other 3 were I mean, damn near identical because it was the two of you and Chris Dietz locally here. So, like, you guys were almost all in the same build. The sideboards, like, I think Nick and I both played, or all three of us played Chris at one point. And it was funny.
Yeah, we all did.
I was
You
joking.
guys got him in Swiss, and I got him in
Top
the
Cut,
top
right?
8 match.
Yeah, so it was kind of. I actually was joking with him. It's kind of funny because I'm like, "Do you want to share sideboard notes so we don't both have to get them out of our box since we probably have the same one?"
Same ones. We had the exact same ones. I mean, Chris was playing 79 of the same cards as us.
Yeah,
All but one was different. So
yeah. So it was like ours was kind of what I at least expected in a lot of ways. Like I think Chain was really good. We had a Viserai top. I think the only one that kind of had people maybe raise their eyebrows was Katsu, but that's Bergie. He's a Katsu loyalist. It's all he plays, and even bigger than that is really.
We will say
awful.
this, and we talked about this. If you know Katsu well, you will make top 8. You can make top 8 because I guarantee it, half of your field will have no idea how to block him, and you will abuse him. And that's what Bergie's made a living of top 8s, because those first 3 to 5 rounds, he destroys people because they don't know how to block him. And then once he gets, and he knows this already, he knows this is what's going to happen. He gets in the top rounds, and people know how to block it and have decks that can beat it.
Yeah.
But why not just keep getting top 8s with a deck that you're very good at?
Yeah.
Because it makes sense to do it.
Yeah.
Well, eventually there'll be that way to crack into the next layer, right? And
eventually, and that all it's going to take is for his opponent to do a slight misplay.
Right.
Because even at the top tables, you have, well, I mean, I will say my top 4 table, my quarterfinal match was an absolute shit show. It's recorded. It was horrible play by both me and my opponent, and I can say that because he missed his 7 banish on a chain that he'd been playing all day. I had horrible starting hands, and instead of, I have the saying to myself, when in doubt, block it out, and I didn't. I didn't take my own advice. That's how you fix bad hands, is you block it, don't take damage. I'm like, I'll just take damage and swing back for half. That seems like a good idea. So I played horribly. He had a huge misbanish, so it happens with that. But I mean, there's an instance where that happens with the Katsu deck, and Katsu's just going to eat that up and take a misplay like that.
Yeah. Our top was, I mean, it was kind of what we expected. I think a lot of them were. So like, I mean, that's kind of like the big topic, right? Is the topic of the week is ProQuest results. That's what we obviously are going to talk about. So I guess my first question to you guys is not, are there any surprises in terms of like who won the most events? Because that's not surprising. We'll get to the conversation. I think everybody is obviously wants to hear about that opinion from everybody who has an opinion about it. But was there anything that like shocked you guys?
Yes. Okay. Yes. There's something that absolutely shocked me, and that is Davis Kingsley's long flowing hair on the cover of the article. I was like, who is this? Who is this guy? Is this James White's love child writing the article? I've never seen this man before with this long. Look at COVID comes out. Like, I know I've seen his profile pic on Facebook before, and it's like short,
Yeah.
And just these.
The COVID mane.
That's the biggest shock to me.
The shock of the week.
I was shocked to see the low Viserai conversion rates. That he seemed to struggle as compared to other heroes that had good representation and decent success in Swiss. He seemed to really struggle in top 8, and I don't know if that's a testament to difficulty of the deck more so than metagame place. And I mean, it is hard to figure out how to specifically weave in these new cards and still maintain that OTK package, or if you just abandon it altogether and go to a full tempo route, which one it's really going to be best in the end.
Yeah.
I think the biggest change we're going to see is we're going to see a very staunch, unmovable chain going into this next week. I think you'll see. You could possibly see Viserai thrown, because they're running a pretty heavy blue package, to maybe up their unmovable count. Obviously, I see OG and New Bravo both starting to run staunches to change it up. So I think that's how Viserai gets back in it.
Well, the Viscera that top aided for us was running those red unmovables, so it paid him off for sure. So you could even maybe go up to those yellows as well.
Yeah.
I mean, he still got what, 5 wins, so
Yeah.
third of all heroes for wins at 5. I mean, it's a pretty 25-10-5. So I mean, it's
Yeah.
I think that's so. All joking with my Davis most surprised. My most surprising is how did 10 prisms get past New Bravo? Because when we were testing into Prism, we were absolutely shellacking her every time, and it was hardly close ever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I don't know how, if that was maybe people were still building Bravo too defensively in those areas where she won, because it just was weird to see her with 10 wins. That to me was shocking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing for me, I probably would just say what Nick said, but about a couple of heroes, because the conversion rate, like when you look at the math, and I know we keep saying conversion rate. I know Andrew from Dice Commando is going to listen to this and he's going to have an aneurysm. Poor Andrew listens to us say conversion rate so many times because it's like the most basic like face value math we can find. It's not perfect math, but it does like tell you a story. Sometimes it's not the percentage that tells you the story, but it's just like that ratio that you just look at the raw numbers. Like forget about just the percentage and look at the numbers, right? Because Viscera had 65 top 8s, which was almost half of what New Bravo had. But New Bravo had more than 5 times the wins. So it's like twice as represented, but 5 times the victor. And I know that that's part of that is representation. It's easier to win when you have more decks and cut. But then the counter argument to that is very simply that Oldham had 16 and won 3 compared to Viscerai's 65 and won 5. Or Prism, who was almost half as represented as Viscerai, but won 3 more than he did. And it's like stuff like that.
Half represented in top Prism. Prism was
in top 8s.
Oh, they're only off by a little bit, only like 15.
Oh, was it? Okay, because the one that we saw that Adam sent us was when you look at some of the math, but it's even little things are like Chain was really well represented, and he had a really bad win rate. Like he gets the top cut, and then he just fell on his face.
Right. Well, I think that also goes to show like the difficulty of the deck to play over the course of a tournament, especially losing Plunder Run, which is a huge tool in the deck. Combining with Creepers, you could do some really insane things. And I think losing that card really did impact the consistency of the deck, especially into those control matchups where building toward those big turns was so important. And Plunder Run was just the spikiest card you could have. It was the best at making the biggest turn.
Yeah. I think that like Plunder Run offered like the ability to like steal tempo on turns where someone was going to like leak a damage. It's like, oh, you're going to leak 1 because there's no hit effect on this card, so you'll block 3 of the 4, and then that's when they would cheat in Plunder Run from Arsenal, get the card draw, make the next one bigger, really like get their turn going. And those are the things that I think I'm curious to see how people solve those problems, because that's going to be the biggest thing going into week 2 is like the elephant in the room is obviously Bravo. And how do you solve it? Because I think that a lot of the other decks have tools, but none of them have like a clear-cut path to solving that matchup. Like I played Kyle in round 1 on Dash, and Dash obviously, like Jason said, is historically a kind of a rough matchup for Guardians because of that slow setup game. And Kyle runs a very defensive package. Like he's probably the most defensive Dash I've ever played. Runs red and yellow unmovables, fates, and sinks. So runs,
he's got 6 items to win that late game.
Yeah. And he plays to the setup. He does it really well. And it was a relatively close game by comparison to anything else I'd had with like Dash or setup decks with Bravo. But it was just that it was the constant punch in the face that Bravo can just keep putting out, where it's just like a big dominate attack go again, followed by the hammer that disrupts their turn. And so everybody has to start to come up with solutions to that problem. But I don't know. It was interesting to me because I think, Jason, we were looking at it, and like the win percentage, I just jumped back and looked at Davis's or Tower 9's nationals chart, and the win percentage of Breyer was basically identical to what Bravo pulled off this weekend during national season. The Cheerios Breyer was, which is
Yeah, it'll be. I think this week is so. There's two things that happen this week coming up. Is you have the people that are going to jump on the Bravo train that didn't believe, right?
Yep.
You have the people like me who are like, I'm not going to play him this week because everybody else is playing him, so I'm going to bring my pet deck because it's an hour and 10-minute drive. So if I lose, I really don't care this week. So I'm going to take my pet deck out and have fun. And then you have the people that will play the same deck that they played in week 1, but now adjust, which I think will be the vast people will do that. And they'll look at that matchup, which their bad matchup, and most people's bad matchup, it was New Bravo. So they'll look at that matchup and they'll make adjustments to that matchup. Because that deck this is what I've wanted, and this is why I like this game. We have 3 releases a year. We don't have to worry about another set coming out every week and a half to 4 weeks and new cards, and never let the meta actually evolve into a stable meta where you start to get the circle instead of one-offs. So this week, I truly think we're going to experience a very evolving meta through this whole ProQuest season like we've never seen in this game, because we've always had the callings off of different releases the way they lined up last year. But now that we have all these ProQuests, you're going to see deck lists change like crazy. Because if you're coming with the same deck list, even if you just won, you better adjust, because people are going to adjust to your deck list. It's out in the public. People are going to look at it. Here's how I can beat it. There's decks that I want to play that I just can't play because certain decks still make it unplayable. But as we adjust, those decks might come back because there's a readjustment. And that, I think this game will really evolve and become a great place.
Oh, definitely. As we move into week 2, I think a lot of people, there will definitely be people that jump ship, and they're gonna move on to their new hero, and that will almost never pay you off. Play what you know, play what you're good at, and that's like something that we have always seen from Magic too. Is it's always better to adjust and adapt and wait for your time to find those cracks in the metagame to switch to your like second strategy or something like that. Because as these decks start to tech for one another, the top decks devote more space to winning those matchups, then space is opened up in the meta game for some more niche decks to have success again.
Yeah, but there's people like me who just refuse to play the same deck week
Oh,
in
well,
week out.
you also
change to change. I just enjoy the change.
You can't be playing the most popular deck too. It burns you deep in your soul.
I hate playing the most popular deck.
Yeah, it's not happening.
The reason it didn't bother me on Bravo is because literally the first deck I bought 2 years ago when I picked up the hero kit was Bravo. So I've been playing him forever. There's no way I wasn't going to play him week 1. I had full intentions of playing him on Saturday. I'm not going to play him. I'm kind of like at that 95% not going to play, and just I wanted to bring Azalea, but after testing Azalea into what we think a lot of Bravos are changed, it's not winnable. I can put a ton of pressure on, and it just gets blocked too easy.
Yeah, I think.
But maybe she'll come back eventually.
See, what I'm waiting for is like later in ProQuest season when everyone gets built up to these defensive builds and it becomes a very grindy defense reaction. Because here's the thing, is for me, like a deck like Oldham is problematic as somebody who loves to play Kano, because it's just too blue heavy and too grindy and wants to play too long. Defense reaction heavy metas are like a Kano wet dream, because
I think this, to be honest, I think this week coming up is a Kano week.
It's got a possibility.
My deck is not in a good spot with Kano right now. I don't have enough reps into it. And when we played the one time, I'm like, my deck is complete trash. I literally wanted to throw it away. Because I just threw new cards in and didn't take the time to actually go through the deck. But if I had the time to go through and work that deck, I mean, this might be the week, Blake. This could be Kano's week to shine because nobody's going to be like, I need to add 3 pieces of null rune. Everybody's like, I need to tech for 3 other decks. I'm pulling null rune to put in other cards for teching against my Prism matchup. I need my 6 blocks, my Bravo matchup. I need huge D reacts.
Yep.
They're pulling it. This is the week for Kano to shine.
It's true. I think that when it's funny because I think a lot of times people kind of have that attitude where it's like once there are a lot of decks that once decks get tuned, they work their way out of it. Like rogue decks become typically worse as decks become more and more and more refined because deck strategies are so strong that you can bring a rogue deck and it's cute, but a lot of times it gets mowed down by just really efficient decks that have the best cards in the game or have access to more stuff and have been played more. Usually rogue decks kind of shine early in metas when people's decks are kind of janky and they kind of jammed, it's like 20% of my deck is new, or like in Bravo's case, all of my deck is new. So they're trying to figure things out. Prism players are kind of clunky. So if you brought in that spicy, Rhinar Levia deck, you can maybe surprise somebody because people, they're not even thinking about how their deck plays into that because they don't have time to test reps. And it's funny because Kano exists in a different world where once the meta is predictable, Kano players can like get those last 10 cards figured out that let them like leverage the meta to their advantage. It's like, oh, it's gonna be a really defensive meta. That's fine. I just don't, I'm gonna go fast because people are only bringing 1 or 2 null rune max, so I can just burn them down. And you run all your Aether Flares and all of your Reverberates and stuff, and you just string things together and finish them with a blazing for 20, and you just spike people super hard.
String the lesson and lava together till they die.
Lesson chain lesson. It's pretty good.
Lesson. They'll learn a lesson at the end when you're blazing them.
Lesson chain, lesson blazing. Burp 20. Dunked.
Oh yeah. This could be the week. I mean, I think Kano will find a spot. It's just so hard when your opponent can throw 14 on turn 2 at you. So that's half my life, you're telling me. So if I don't block, I'm way behind. I mean, it's just horrible.
Yeah.
Because unless you can chain your 20 turn together right there to do at least 20 back when they throw 14 to half and half, which I mean, I've hit an Oldham from 24. I've hit Katsu from 20. Like you can hit them from a ways out, but that's not the way I want to make a living. I'll tell you that much.
I mean, the way you win the new Bravo matchup is you hope that they play Awakening and they get greedy and try to get 10 surges and you just Arsenal Scour.
Scour could be insane, especially if you got an early energy potion out.
Yeah.
To be able, when they do get the greed, to be able to fire a ton back and block upwards of 8 to 10 of it. Not have to worry about losing your hand.
I mean, realistically, right? Like the Scour becomes bonkers if Guardians get too married to Awakening, and if realistically, right? If new Bravo running Awakening, and Chain and Prism and Viscerai are your meta, there's a world where that starts to settle and Kano finds a home because Scour becomes a crazy card. Because if Bravo goes cool, I'll go down 5 below you, and then I'll Awakening and I'll show you my Earth card and I'll make 10 surges. They pass to you and you go, cool. From Arsenal, I'm gonna Scour, pitching my whole hand, and I'm just gonna kill all your Seismic Surges. Now they have a Polarize in their hand that's probably just dead, and they're gonna get 10 Arcane thrown at them for literally, like, you basically nullify their entire game plan.
And if they put it in their And if they put it face up and you're not running Toma Harvest, you just took away the arsenal spot for a good amount of the game.
We can definitely see the the difference between the experienced Bravo players and the people that might be newer to the deck, specifically with Awakening. it is like the test of the new players where you have to have a plan when you're using it and what you want to use it for. And you often see people fall into the trap of, oh yeah, if I take this big hit, I can awakening and then hit him back. But if you're not doing something that's kind of spectacular and they can just block it back in return, well, you just got hit in the face for nothing. Yeah. So I definitely saw it pay off, not in people's favor, a couple times at the tournament.
Yeah, it absolutely. This happened on Monday playing and awakening against my Briar deck into a pulverize. And if I'm the Bravo player, one, I'm trying to fatigue the Briar player. Two, if I'm awakening, I'm grabbing crippling crush because pulverize is only 14 damage and neg 4's 1, and I believe I channel mount out, so I'm doing damage. And if I have a full grip of cards, I really don't care about 14 because you're going to get 20 plus back from the 14 I take.
Yeah.
So just things like that, like they get this big number. Doesn't matter. You need hand disruption right now in the meta. You need things that cause discards and pull cards from hand because that is the enemy, is the other person's hand.
Mm-hmm.
So then that becomes the evolution of this conversation, right? And the next discussion that I think makes sense is what are like your first thoughts on solutions? Do you think that, because this is like the hot topic, of course, and the immediate response from Facebook and social media is like, obviously we need to ban or nerf something in Bravo. But I think this is, again, something Jason and I were just talking about is, one, I don't think that's true because I think that you have to give a deck time to figure, you have to give the meta time to solve things before you get jumpy with like anything that evolves around cards. And two, Bravo exists in a world where it's like, what's the ban? Like, what exactly are people surmising that LSS just goes, this card fixes it? Because it's not like it's not like Plunder Run with Briar, where you can take away a card that stops like breakpoints and card draws and extensions of turns. It's not like Chain where you go, it's the bottomless Seed Riftbind turn. It's every turn is problematic for different reasons. So there is no solution except for them to trust us as players to find solutions, right?
Right. I guess if you were to have to pin down the one card that is probably in every list, no matter what they're doing, and it would be Autumn's Touch. If you were to pull that from the deck, it would just no longer function. But that's not a realistic solution. Yeah, that's not that. You're taking away just such a pivotal piece of like the assembly. It wouldn't do anything beneficial.
I will say I want to say two things on this point. Number one, if we think of Chain, Briar, Bravo. Chain, I hated playing against. Absolutely hated playing Seeds Chain. It was horrible. It was oppressive. It sucked to play against. Did not mind Briar. Never struggled with Briar. We brought out the shield and just blocked Briar. Cheerios Briar was not an issue. Like, it just was played wrong, and it was such a short meta time that it could not evolve to block it. This Bravo, I love the mirrors. I actually love these mirrors. They're a lot of fun. They don't seem oppressive. They can be RNG, but more than likely they're not going to be. You can come back from big hits. You can figure out when to block, when not to block. There's a ton to go into this. I actually really enjoy the mirror. The worst deck to play in the current meta right now is Ice Lexi. That deck can suck it, okay? I cannot stand playing against Ice. Unless you're playing Guardian, it really sucks to play against that deck.
Yeah.
It's oppressive. The constant ice, and like we were playing and it ended up being a close game because Ranger finally did a Ranger thing. But when I played Briar into Lexi, I did not do a thing for 4 to 5 turns.
Yeah.
Couldn't do a thing. With all the ice, and I was just blocking. I'm like, this is awesome. I just sit here and you play, and then finally you're like, oh shit, I didn't draw no attack, and then I got to do something.
Yeah, I mean, Ice Lexi is basically it's the deck that every game has, right? Like the benefit to this game, I think, sometimes is the fact that it exists as one hero and one very specific archetype that in a lot of ways can punish itself, right? Like I've played a
Well,
lot of
it does
games on
punish
it,
itself.
and yeah, like I've played quite a few games now on it. Like I've tested it quite a bit, not to play it, but just to give other people games into it, and then it helps me know. Like I'm a person who when I test, I don't need to play my deck 1,000 times. Like I just need to play lots of decks so I understand everything conceptually, and I need to get most of my reps on my deck. But I can play other stuff just to learn it more in and out. And I think one of the things that playing with Lexi has definitely shown me is that it's a very like self-contained archetype, whereas in a lot of games, funny enough, like in Magic it's blue, like that's the color that says no and doesn't let people play. And then again, funny enough, in DBS it's also blue, just like ice happens to be blue, almost like they meant to do that. But blue is like the control color, and a lot of times like playing against those decks is really unfun in just the way that they play. And oftentimes you would find that those people play that kind of deck in like every game that they play. It's like you see like people who play Ice Lexi are probably blue players from other games. Like there's some of that control aspect and variant that they like about the deck. But funny enough, it's a deck that has a little bit of play into the new Bravo, because if they just threaten your hand a card or two every turn, it gets really annoying because you can't, all of a sudden you can't reveal. So you're just playing attack for attack. And now it's a really slow grinded game. Like Bravo still has the advantage, I think, but it is interesting how in some ways the archetype helps balance things, even though it's unfun. It's just the fact that in this game, it has some hand destruction, which is more problematic, I think, in this game than in most games, because the hand size is so limited and what you can do with your hand is so limited.
I just had a great idea what you were talking about that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to name it right now. I'm going to make it. It's probably going to be trash, but I'm going to try it. It's going to be Weave of Echoes Briar. Weave of Echoes Briar is what it's called.
Okay.
So I'm going to play Amulet of Echoes.
Okay.
And 9 Weave Earths. Every time you drop 2, which should be consistent with 9, you're going to force them to discard 2. Before they can even do D-reacts, nothing, just drop hand. Seems like it's something would work in this meta. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing right now is that a lot of decks are, like we talk about that all the time. Obviously, there are certain statements that are like, duh, that's how it works, right? Like some decks are it's their end game is more important. Well, obviously every deck's end game is important. It's the end of the game. I think that now what we're seeing is there are a lot of like really hand intensive decks in terms of the fact that like lots of decks need a lot of their hand. And there aren't a lot of decks that play well on smaller hands. I think that that's part of the reason that, in my opinion, Katsu actually is a good meta call, is if people want to dominate you, rip your cards, whether that's Fused Oaken Olds or Ice Lexi or having to block Briar or having to block Chain, Katsu's one of the few decks who can actually get really good value out of 2-card hands, because it says Kadachi, attack for a breakpoint. So if you don't block something, you're going to give them an arsenal, which means next turn, if you take 2 cards, they could potentially go an extra attack white on you. They could, and it becomes like this deck that actually like builds upon its short hands to being bigger hands. Whereas other decks, like if you could just attack their hand, that's how you stop them. Make them play on 2 cards. Like most of the power decks in the game right now, if you make them play on 1 or 2 cards, they just don't get to play the game in the way that they want to play it.
Mm-hmm. And I think the big theme across all those decks that we just talked about is decks that make your opponent interact with you on the combat chain. They force your opponent to either take damage or have cards pulled or give your opponent a significant advantage for letting those hits come through. And I think one of the big reasons why Lexi does have some play into a deck like Bravo, and why Bravo did so well early, is that he is relatively linear. And when week 1, when you just want to be doing what you're doing, it's linear and powerful deck. That also comes with a little bit of disruption as well. The Icy Whale is pretty significant in some of these aggro matchups. And Channel like Frigid, everyone knows that card's an absolute house. So Ice Lexi, a deck that really makes them interact with you on their turn and pressures their hand, is, in my opinion, a good way to attack the meta. And other decks that do the same thing. Oldhim has the ability to attack people's hands with the Ice reactability. And just if you're looking to play an aggro deck, a deck that has on-hit effects that really pressure your opponent to interact with you. Mask of Momentum is a great example.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, well, I like Jason and I. We played 3 games last night of Earthbriar versus Katsu, and it was some of the most insane flesh
they
and
were all
blood
great.
I've ever played. It was super fun, but the level to which, you could just get absolutely blown out by channel Mount Heroic turns when Briar would drop one and just go like 3 wide plus the sword was insane. But then if Briar is like, there were times where Jason's like, I can do 20 back, and it's like, all right. I mean, I might get 3 draws this turn at this point.
Well, it was there was a couple turns where we fired back 20 at each other, and then had to block. It's just all the games are completely different depending on our draw.
Yep.
They all came down to the end, but it just depended if we had to block early because our hand fixing or we blocked late.
Yes.
And then one was just kind of mixed block, just depending.
Yeah. It's so, and I think that's what's interesting is that as we move along week to week in the ProQuest season, we'll see a lot of those adjustments and changes start to take place from week to week, and it'll be, which I think is really good. Like to your point, Jason, is really good for the meta, that we have an evolving meta and that we have this shifting, moving, swaying thing. But the fact that we have multiple decks that are powerful right now, it's going to start to come down to who adjusts best. Like what cult of the following of the hero can work together as a cult and come up with solutions for the other one. Like whose group can find their play lines into the big bad boys of the meta, like the big bad wolf, and then can they still beat the other ones? Because that's the issue. If you put in a bunch of defense reactions for Bravo, that leaves you susceptible to these really wide chain Prism and Viscerai decks. So, how much are you giving up to gain ground on Bravo? And are you willing to do that?
I have one prediction for this week, and just call me crazy on this. But after playing all the games we've played, there is decks, Dash in particular, that can utilize a lot of the new items that came out in the Carnival slot. Like these items, you don't go heavy with them, but if you can have 4 2 of 2 in your sideboard, there is some really good effects on those cards that I think could actually change games. Because I mean, just even the Haven Call being even to grab your Rally of the Rear Guard and throw it as a huge block with nothing from hand. You just have to be able to get it out.
Yeah, I mean, it just allows you to pop. It allows you to pop an aura. Or not an aura, a phantasm attack.
A big attack. It's just it's a defense reaction that goes, and you get a huge. I mean, there is some great effects on those cards. Now you can't go heavy, obviously, because there's 0 block. Right. But some of the effects on the cards are very, very good that somebody a lot smarter than me will figure out, because it can't play the same game the same way over and over again. You have to make some adjustments. And I think they've given us enough card pool now where for the longest time, I mean, even Bravo, there's a plenty of no block in that deck. So you can run no block in decks. You obviously can't run 20, but you can run 6 and get away with it. 4 to 6. I don't feel comfortable going over that number by any means, because then you just die fast. But there's a lot of good effects on these that could make a huge difference.
Yeah. So here's the question before we transition to the PTI discussion that I know we have to have. This is important because we did it last week. Adam had a good hot take. And he pointed out this week that he was close because Azalea made a top 8. He was close to his prediction that Azalea would win. So what is everybody's hot take for week 2 ProQuest season?
Hot
I think there's
take.
going to be a Kano win this week.
A Kano's going to
Kano
win
win this week.
Ooh, that's spicy. But see, that's the right hot take to me. I think you make the big hot take because if you're wrong, nobody's going to punish you for it, right? It's like, well, duh, that was a terrible it was a bad hot take then, it's a bad hot take now. It's like, yeah, that's fine. But if Kano wins, you look like a genius. If Azalea wins, you look like a genius. So.
I think there's if there's good players that run Kano, he will have a chance because every tournament, I mean, Andrew high rolled, and he says it, the top 8, Andrew high rolled the shit out of the top 8 at our tournament, right? He got on fire and just wrecked.
Oh my god!
That game.
Yeah, he went channel mount in our game. Each channel mount led into another. It was filthy. I was on the back foot until I got smacked in the mouth, and he put me out of my misery.
Kano can do that. Kano can run hot. Like, he could just go and you could play 20 cards on turn 0 on your opponent's turn just because it just lines up and you go off. So
yeah.
Kano has a potential, and a lot of times when you get hot, a deck just gets hot, you know?
Mm-hmm.
The stars align for that deck.
Right. Yeah. Especially at this ProQuest size event where it's not a 14-round event where you have to slog through round after round of Swiss. 9 rounds really isn't that long, and when you can drop a game or two in Swiss and get top 8, you only have to run through 3 people. And if you can, you get the luck of the Irish for 3 matches, that might not be all you need.
Yeah. And I mean, Kano has that ability. He has the ability to high roll like nobody's business where, you're put in a position where somebody goes, I'm going to kill you with this card if you don't deal 24, and then Kano deals 30, and you're like, oh, well, look at that. Here we go. All right, cool. Good game, buddy. Good game. And you shake hands, and they're pissed. People try to hold their composure when they lose to Kano on like 30 life, but it's like, I started the turn at 30 and I lost. You were in the single digits. Like, yeah,
Yep, that's the deck. I think the scariest card to ever see on the combat chain is Sonic Boom. You have no idea what's going to come next, but it's going to be big.
You're probably going to get punished. If somebody plays a Sonic Boom and then they reveal a Sonic Boom and they play a Sonic Boom, that's where the smart thing to do there is just start rolling your mat up. Because there's no world where that doesn't transition into an awful, awful situation.
Oh, definitely.
You don't want to see a reverberate into a lesson, especially if they have energy potion up. If they have energy potion up and start with a reverberate into a lesson, well, I hope not all your hand is blue because I'm gonna die.
Yeah, it's bad. I will probably say that my hot take. Ooh, I don't know. I don't know if I'm willing. I mean, it's a pretty hot take. My hot take is that we'll see a significant decline in Bravo wins in week 2. And I don't know if that's going to be a result of people teching for the deck or people getting off of the deck before they feel like the tech comes out to smack them. But I think we'll see a significant decline in that percent. Like, I don't think there's any way it's 60% again. There's just no chance in the world that it's 60% again, win percent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll just have to see. Will the tech actually be good enough to stop it, or will it just be able to run through it? And that'll really be the stress test. Will it actually be able to put up similar numbers again? Because it's not unheard of for a deck to have a crazy weekend like this. Across other TCGs, we've seen, especially decks that are like this, that are linear and are powerful and consistent, they lend to do well on those week 1 events. So we'll just have to see. I guess if I were to go with my hot take, I think we'll see a Bravo win, but the Showstopper. He's going to make a resurgence because the Showstopper did get some really interesting new tools. I mean, Seismic Stir is an interesting new card. The Heave cards are really good in OG Bravo, and he can do a lot of interesting things with that Imposing Visage, the Aura Tutor, and some of these other auras. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little resurgence of the showstopper. Because who better to come put an end to the star of the show?
The showstopper.
The
The
showstopper.
showstopper. Bravo walks in. I'm the star of the show. Bravo
Show.
walks in. It's time to stop the show.
Stop.
All right. So then, I mean, we gotta end the episode with Jason's PTI discussion. I know this is the discussion you wanted to have, right?
So I actually didn't realize that this was a thing. And some people be like, oh, you have to allow it. No, you don't. So here's the thing. If you allow gifting of a Pro Tour invite, it leads to sales, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a gift and there'll be money exchange and people are going to want to do it. And it makes it not a Pro Tour. Because now I suck, but I want to be at the Pro Tour because I get to go, to dinner with James White, do all this cool shit. So I'm just going to buy it because I suck and I just want to be in it. I don't like that they do that. If you can't make it to the event, oh, well, you still got a cold gold foil, whatever you want to call the damn thing, to play in the event. Or you go to the next one, just allow people to, if they can't make one, transfer it to the next event rather than gift them. I think it's a horseshit policy. I'm not a fan. If it's a Pro Tour, it's for people that earned it.
Right.
Don't make it a buy-in event.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that I'm curious on some clarification because it doesn't seem entirely clear what you can do with these Pro Tour invites that you basically earn from ProQuest, because the ProQuests are specifically like Road to Nationals, where it's not a true PTI in the sense that you can use it for any event. Like if you win a ProQuest, you get a Pro Tour invite, but that's my understanding is it's specifically to be applied to a Pro Tour stop. Whereas if you were to top 8 your nationals and get a PTI, that can be used for the World Championships. But you can't do that with ProQuest invites. And I'm not I don't think they've clarified, or if I don't know, I didn't read anywhere that said
here's what it says.
Okay.
It specifically says obtaining an invitation to Pro Tour New Jersey through an in-store ProQuest Season 1 event. To redeem it, a player may gift for redemption up to 1 PTI to another player by just emailing them the information. That's all it says.
Yeah, see, and that's confusing because it's like, is that specifically a PTI, like when you would earn from winning topping a nationals, or are these considered PTIs? Because
it's in the same paragraph.
Okay.
Bullet points as ProQuest Season 1.
Right. And I know that if somebody wins, now that's interesting too, because if you win, like Andrew won our ProQuest this weekend. So if he were to go to the finals this coming weekend,
I don't know if you can gift it from a ProQuest.
Okay.
It's not clear. Now that I'm reading it again, it's not clear.
So my understanding was that it was these specific ones that are available to be gifted. Because to me, it would be even more problematic if it's an at-large PTI that you can gift and sale. Because then now we have seats at Worlds that could potentially be bought.
Right.
And that is like an even greater issue. So, and I think LSS would at least see that coming. There's no way they would be so foolish where people could buy and sell at-large PTIs. So the reason why I think they're allowing the gifting is because it's these invites that are for this specific event, and there is a possibility, like we have a friend who's a big player, he knows he's not going to be able to go, but he's still competing, and that is a legitimate possibility. But we all know that more often than not, or maybe not more often than not, but there is going to be people selling these, and they're, we'll have to sort of live with the consequences of that, whatever they may be.
Yeah,
I know as I'm for my 90-day XP, I'm only 1,156 spots out right now.
Oh yeah,
but my lifetime XP, I'm only 300 spots out.
Oh, even close, even better.
You're right there.
But right on the problem is I'm about the same amount of XP points away from both.
Yeah, I mean, the whole Pro Tour thing too, like it's interesting. The gifting of things is interesting. The hand downs. I don't think the struggle is there's not a perfect system. Like there's just not a perfect system to do it by, unless you could like cash somebody out. Because realistically, if my options are die with the PTI, like not like let my PTI that I earned during a ProQuest expire and get nothing out of it because I couldn't make one of the Pro Tour stops that it was applicable for, or have someone pay me $50 for it. I mean,
they're going for way more than that.
Yeah, I mean they're going for a lot of money, but like you know what I mean. Like that's
Right.
that's easy money, you know.
Right.
It's and I wouldn't let mine die either. I mean, preferably I would just find a friend and be like, hey, remember this when you open a card I need. We maybe we make a trade in my favor next time.
Right.
But yeah, the whole situation is always interesting. A lot of that stuff does get murky in terms of how that stuff is divvied out. I like their hand down or their pass down system for the ProQuests, where if the winner of a ProQuest is someone who's won a previous one, it goes to second place. It does interest me because they've
good.
said that
that's a finalist getting
right.
That
it
person
should work
deserves
that way.
and they limit it there. That's what I'm okay with it. I think some people don't like that it would stop there. So say that the person who won ProQuest 1 and ProQuest 2 met in the final of our third ProQuest here. There's no Pro Tour invite is getting handed out to anybody because they can't earn a second one, and it doesn't pass down past second place. So third place is just SOL.
Right. Well, there is no like third place. You'd have to have rubber match to determine it.
And I think therein lies the issue, is there's no way to determine who actually finished in third place without having a clear-cut system for that. So then you have, that's where people, I assume, will start having the discussions, but that's a pretty minimal discussion where it might be like, hey man, you know, if you're friends, it's probably unspoken, but also that's like the big no-no, right? Is hey, I can, you've got an invite, I don't. So if I win this semifinal and I go play in the final, whether I win or lose, I get it. But if I win a gold foil, I'm just saying they're worth money to both.
That's going to happen.
Yeah,
that's going to happen. There's no control over that. It's going to happen in any game, anything.
Totally.
That's just going to happen.
100%.
So that's just going to happen. But the controllables, let's control. The uncontrollables, there's nothing you can do there. You could have a super tight match and misplay a very minor misplay and give it to your friend, right? Or just forget to block a big hit effect. I'm like, I already put my hand down. It's a ProQuest. I can't take it back. Damn it. Will you let me have it back? You'd be like, nope, you don't get that back.
Right. Well, and I think when it comes to this like gifting situation is that there is a better solution, and LSS has already used it when it comes to the national invites, where players had a window where they could either accept or decline their invite. And then from there, they had a sliding scale, the number of people they would invite based on ratings. And they could have easily done the same thing here, where if people can't go, they decline the invite. Well, bam, now you have more people that qualify based on ratings. And we could easily avoid this whole buying and selling situation. And I get that, like, there is some burden on them when you have like the declining portion. It's a short period of time. Like, there's definitely not going to be a good window depending on when some of these later ProQuests are going to be. You know, there's not going to be a huge turnaround time for people that qualify based on ratings to then go. But to me, that's a better solution, at least, than now suddenly, a few weeks before the event, we're probably going to see some of these invites going for $5,000-$10,000. And I mean, I've already heard of them going for a couple grand, and we're months away. The desperation will only go up as we get closer.
Yeah. Well, and
it's hobnob with the greatest.
It's interesting in Fab too, because some of it doesn't even have to be about exchange of money because of the value of some of these cards, right? Like if you've won,
we don't want to hear about sexual favors, all right?
That's true. If you want, That's what people would have OnlyFans or something like that for. Is they'd have to find like an alternate means to pay people to do things for them.
Prostituting out your PTI. Hey, it's just like the guy in Wisconsin, the mayor or city hallman's like, we can't have ice fishing on the lakes because you know what that brings? It brings ice shanties. And then comes the prostitution. That was have you guys not seen that? It's amazing. He's like being serious too. Prostitution in the ice shanties. So
I think
we might see it at the PTI. Prostitution, you never know.
I think the best part about that conversation is it falls into a very Minnesota thing that it's like when Dane said something about caribou and I clarified it and I actually got a message from somebody who was listening. They're like, I'm glad you clarified that people in Minnesota liked caribou and that it was referencing a coffee chain and not specifically like the animal.
The animals?
Animal.
It's like there's certain things like people don't understand how big of a part of culture ice fishing is in Minnesota. Like I was gonna say I live by a lake, but that's a stupid statement because everybody in Minnesota lives by a lake.
Yeah.
Literally everybody. And it's funny because like I take my kids to school and I drive along this boulevard that goes next to a lake and there are 4 ice fishing tents that just sit there all the time. And
it's prostitution going on in there.
It's probably
couldn't be anything else.
It's an ice shanty. It's clearly an ice shanty that has.
Oh god, it's the greatest thing. It's like a city hall guy from like Ohio or Wisconsin. It's hilarious. Okay. It was memed up. It was good stuff.
Is it like the video where the school board guy totally gets Bart Simpsoned and he doesn't realize he's getting Bart Simpsoned and he's like announcing people's names who are supposed to come up and have grievances. And they're all just direct quotes from The Simpsons. And he just is missing it. He's entirely doesn't grasp that he's saying these phrases.
There's a couple guys that do like the Minnesota and Wisconsin thing. They're like, and they do the skits. So he's like watching the video when I'm watching. He's like, yeah. And then they say the prostitution. He's like, what? What kind of bait are you using? Like, anybody that fishes immediately, I like started dying. I wish I had the link to it. It's on YouTube or Facebook. I don't know. There's a bunch of old betcha guys and something else that say it. It just cracked me up when he said prostitution in the ice shanty. So just watch out for LSS. PTI could be prostituting going on.
Oh yeah.
PTI invites.
It could happen.
Or just PTI. I don't need to say the invite. It's like saying ATM machine. So it just doesn't make sense. Sorry about that.
ATM machine. I'm going to go through the ATM machine, the drive-through window. The drive-through window, I got to drive through the drive-through window. It's like, okay. Do you guys...
I will say, nothing else. I have nothing else. So I was about to say the same thing, but next week, we're going to... I think we just store up, like... you made a post today and it had some response. So we're going to store that up for just like a giant rant next week because there'll be multiples and more. Yeah. And it was, what's funny is back in the day, Blake, do you remember when we would post stuff and we would get attacked by everybody and it was only us? We were just on our island.
Yep.
And now when this stuff comes out, we got like, I shouldn't say an army, that's inappropriate for time, but we have a good amount of people that enjoy our humor and understand us now that just come and waylay the person. We don't even have to do it. We used to have to like call all of us and like, we need to attack. Not anymore. They just come out and they have great responses. And I don't know, just makes me feel good about the community when we have people other side of the world that support us now.
Yeah. I definitely, when I like posted the thing and had somebody, it's definitely a weird response to it. And then I sent a gift to the guys and it was just like, it's great because people say stupid stuff in the comments and I don't have to be like, man, I'm going to have to spend all day fighting in my own comment section to defend myself. Now it's just like I show up to the comment section and it's like, man, why do I have 5 notifications on Facebook for this thing I shared in the Facebook group? And it's a bunch of people responding. Well, and then come to find out that it's basically just, someone made a stupid comment and then the boys showed up, and they're just standing there with their baseball bats.
Got your back.
Just like, hey, buddy, you got something to say? You got something to say to my guys here? You got something to say? And yeah, it was pretty great. So we appreciate. Just know,
it's fun.
Yeah, I
We have fun.
appreciate, beyond just anybody who defends us in that sense, the people who understand and appreciate that we do, and I made that point in the thing that, we do this for fun. Like, we do this as a hobby. This is something we do of our own free time. We've always said that that's why we do it, and that's why we want to do it. So sometimes, last night I missed putting a link in the description, which I always do for deck profiles, because it was 1:30 in the morning when I finished editing it. That's what happens when you spend the evening with your family and loved ones. Sometimes, you have to edit late night. It happens. So to everybody who jumped in and showed appreciation for it, we do appreciate you guys. We're so grateful to have, subscribers and listeners who appreciate and enjoy what we do. We love doing it. We're bringing Nick and Adam in. They're going to help us make some more content because, there are time limitations for Jason and Dane and I, and they're excited about the game. They love the game. We love playing with them. They test with us a ton. We're like, we talk about the game all the time. We should just talk about it on the channel. Let's do that. So I know Nick and I have already talked. Coming up this week, we're going to do a video. We're going to talk about a strategy guide of like, what do you do? Like, what are the changes you make to different decks, and how do you adjust your deck for ProQuest, week 3 and on. So we're going to have that coming out next week, because I think that's where the strategy comes in is, deck profiles are going to start just coming out of the woodwork. And unless there's something spicy, that's why we did the channel Mount Heroic Bravo one, because it's spicy versus just another Starvo or Prism deck that everyone is going to see. So we'll have that coming next week. We'll keep with the podcast. We'll try and do some gameplay. We're not doing a live stream of this weekend's. I believe Chris is doing it. So I will, I can actually throw a link in the description to this video. So if you're looking for something to watch this weekend, I think Chris is bringing his stuff. I'll confirm.
Yeah, he
with
said
him.
he was.
Yeah, so
and we'll share it on the main page and everywhere.
Yeah.
We'll share it on the main page. I'll make sure to put a link in here, because I know he's doing this weekend. Jason normally does all of ours, but he's driving an hour and a half to this one. So the thought of sticking around potentially for like all that time,
Not gonna.
Right.
yeah, it's unfair to ask the extra time and energy. So, but we will.
And I'm playing an aggro deck, so I could just die really fast. So
Yeah,
I might be
So
home early.
We'll have some more streams later on. We might do some dissecting of footage. Maybe we could ask Chris if after his stuff gets put up, we could do some, discussion about some of the different decks and stuff. I don't know. We'll keep doing some gameplay. We'll record some stuff as the ProQuest season goes on. Hopefully we can all get wins, and then we can start playing fun stuff and have some real spicy decks for you. But thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for all of your encouragement, the comments. We always enjoy the interaction, the feedback, whether that's in the comments on Facebook when we share something or in our videos on the channel. We appreciate you guys letting us know what you like. We appreciate Nick for hopping on with us tonight. We'll throw a link to his. Nick's got his Patreon where he writes articles. He does some stuff for the Wraith Times too. So we'll make sure we have some of the links to that. Jason just does the channel, so I can put a link to the OnlyFans. Maybe Jason will post something there for you this week if you really show some response to it. I don't
Maybe if you give me a PTI,
Maybe
you
Thank you, everybody.
If you ain't talking PTIs.
If you ain't talking PTIs. We will see you next time, and like and subscribe. So.